speaking of another quarterback that utilized a heavy RPO system in college, Ike, Ole Miss's Matt Corral, dual threat quarterback, slender frame, strong whip-like arm. But I will say this too, coming off that ankle injury in the Sugar Bowl. But I like that he played with his team. You see a lot of players where if they're not in the college football playoff game, they decide, if I have an NFL future, I'm not going to play with my teammates anymore. And I like that he says, and he was asked about this, that he does not regret playing with his college teammates in the bowl game, giving everything that they did at Ole Miss under Lane Kiffin. So I like that he doubled down and was confident in his decision, despite the fact that he had that ankle injury. Corral did not throw at the combine either.
Yeah, that's tough. It just depends on who it is when it comes down to that. I look at my son in his position. If it came down to that, then my son would have to make a business decision, and I'll let him decide on what he want to do. I wouldn't persuade him or try to entice him. That's his future. That's his life, and I just support him regardless on where that goes. So for Matt, for him to, mess up his leg in a bowl game, that's kind of tough. But what I did like about Matt, and what is kind of funny, he has an unorthodox throwing pattern. You use the word whipping it, and that's exactly what he does when he throws the ball. He kind of whips the ball. For me, I looked at Matt as like a third round, late second round draft pick. One, because of the injury. Two, because he was too inconsistent in throwing it in the tight windows. The guy had to be wide open instead of throwing him open. That's how I looked at it with Matt. Then I looked at who he's throwing it to. He threw it coming out the backfield a lot. A lot of his long passes, letting the running back come on swing passes, and the running back either scoring a 50-yard touchdown or a 30 to 40-yard gain coming out the backfield. So for me, man, like you say, it was a lot of RPOs. He has the size. We'll see how it is when it comes down to the mobility part. For me, he didn't show a lot of mobility because he doesn't mind sitting in the pocket, which is a good thing. But I think he's another product. I think he'd have to sit, not only sit because of the speed of the game, but just sit because of the injury that he just had. I think sometimes you need to give that body a rest. So for me, man, this draft class for the quarterbacks, it was cool. But how I looked at Matt, man. He's a tough son of a gun. He does have speed, and he don't mind running the ball, especially when it gets down to the red zone. He don't mind putting his head down and trying to run you over, even though he can't. So you like the toughness quarterback. So for me, man, ain't nothing wrong with sitting. But for Matt, the reason why I had him at number 4, one was because of his injury. Two, because of his unorthodox throwing pattern. Like you said, he kind of whipped the ball. But, man, it was just the inconsistency for me throwing it in the tight windows in the red zone.
Yes, Ike. And I'll say this too. We do have a little bit more breaking news we'll get to here in just a second here on the show. Okay. But Matt Corral, again, that ankle injury, again, I go back to, I think it was like Leonard Fournette was the first player to do that and say, hey, I'm not going to play in my team's bowl game, which was very unprecedented. Now it's very, very common. But I wish Corral all the best in the league, just considering he decided, you put so much blood, sweat, tears, and hard work in. And for him to play that final Sugar Bowl game with his college teammates, to me, says a lot about the character of someone who's going to potentially be your quarterback. I also need to compliment you, too. I appreciate the grades that you're giving these quarterbacks because, okay, this guy's a second, third, fourth round grade. I do think that there's going to be a premium on the quarterback position. This is not a strong quarterback class by all accounts. And so I think that there are teams that might have to reach a bit and draft a quarterback who might normally grade in most seasons in later rounds, but there's just not a whole lot of quarterback talent available as compared to previous drafts. So I appreciate you including that bit of information in.